The war is being fought all along North Africa. Conditions in the desert were often harsh, but everyone felt it was a job that just had to be done, irrespective of the circumstances.
Well, we were in a build tent. We could build tents at first. This is 7 miles from Alexandria. And all you got there was bully beef, hard biscuits, melted down with water, salted, bully beef stew. And when you were carrying that up to your wee bit of dugout or wherever your billet was, the son-in-law, you're grinding, the teeth got a good cleaning up for your son-in-law, you need it. I remember going up one time from a place called Mersey to the brook. We lay outside and below a sort of lorry, and with a bottle of beer. That was a beer. This fellow was Skilly and I was beside each other, just laying down on our ground sheet. That was our bed. And we got up in the morning, had to do out there to get the sun away from our lips to get a drink of the beer. You know what I mean? The water's very precious out there. Because you're feared the water you see would create dysentery. Well, water. That's one thing would bring dysentery onto you. And this is a terrible disease too, dysentery, you know. And then the water was rationed as well, you see. Very warm, a good warm climate. Temperature was very, very high. A scorpion, you've got a scorpion below a stone. You got to be very careful. You got to be very careful with a scorpion. A scorpion could kill you if you didn't get it right. That's the desert rat. We did a rat wee thing with a bushy tail, but they were tame enough. You could have cut them. They were on about wholesale. They were on about the desert all the time.
I served in North Africa. We went right round the Cape of Good Hope, to Dorrian and then into Egypt. And we were given special training in Egypt in mine warfare. Well, initially we had mine detectors, which electronic detectors, which detected mines. And when we passed a search coil over the top of a metal object, whether it was shrapnel or mines, we got a screech in the earphones. We had men with mine detectors sweeping the area with these electronic detectors. And when a mine was detected, a man coming behind those men with the detectors placed what we called a bonnet, which is a metal object, over the top of where the mine was said to be. And when the men with detectors had moved forward a safe distance, other men would then lift the bonnet and examine to see what was underneath it. Now the Germans had a practice of planting what we call booby traps. They would attach an igniter to the base of the mine so that if anybody lifted the anti-tank mine, it would immediately be detonated. Now, in addition to minefields, when the Germans realised that they weren't coming back again, they laid mines just anywhere, single individual mines, so that the whole area had to be treated as dangerous, not just minefields.
On the outskirts of Algiers, roughly about 5 to 6 miles from the airport. Whenever there was bombing in the airport, we could see it clearly. We had a bird's eye view of it. As I say, they had a common purpose to get the hospital up and running, and I think it was 76 hours. And I myself was in charge of the operating theatres. And we had 3 main ones and a minor one, and then we had another one that really it was an emergency one. And I remember in a corner of the shed there was a tree with bare branches. It was, and base hospital usually was a 600-bed hospital, but it usually expanded according to the needs of the local. So it could have ended up nearly 1,000. And there were always near ports or main railway stations to get the wounded away. The base hospital was like an ordinary general hospital in the UK. Of course, it was very basic compared to that, but that was the idea. We had skin wards, eye wards. Oh, we had language difficulties off and on. But this particular day, this visitor came in and he was an Indian and he had no English at all. And the orderly saw him, and the orderly was very busy. Usually was stretched out. You can imagine a big ward with about 100 in it and maybe one man. And he saw this man hovering in the doorway, and he thought, this is the new patient that we're expecting. And the visitor followed him, and when they got to the bathroom, the orderly showed him where the soap and stuff was in the bathroom, and started the bath running for him, and the fellow nodded the head and smiled. He thought this was the procedure. He thought this was normal procedure if you visited a skin ward. So then when he was ready, the orderly came back, and the orderly hadn't time to listen to him. And he hustled him and pushed him into a bed, covered him up, and put a blank sheet up for the doctor, and more or less left him in bed. With one thing and another, that man didn't get out of that ward for 3 days. And he tried to make himself heard. He was merely to visit a friend, and there was never any talk whether this friend recognised him or whether he really was in the ward or not. We don't know.